Haaland only scores tap-ins. Without De Bruyne, he'd be nothing. He always disappears in the biggest games. Those are the criticisms that have followed Erling Haaland for years. But here's the strange part. The more he's criticized, the more goals he scores. So what's the truth? Is Haaland really just a tap-in merchant? Or have we completely misunderstood one of the most feared strikers in world football? The man I mentioned at the beginning of this video is none other than Erling Braut Haaland. He was born on July 21, 2000, in the city of Leeds, England. From the moment he entered the world, sport was already running through his veins. Haaland's father, Alf-Inge Haaland, better known to friends and teammates simply as Alfie, was no stranger to Premier League fans. Over the course of a decade, he played for Nottingham Forest, Leeds United, and Manchester City. The very club his son would one day help conquer English and European football. But Alfie gave his son far more than just a famous surname. He stood beside Erling at every stage of his journey. From his very first training sessions, to the blockbuster transfer negotiations that would later shake the football world. To Haaland, his father wasn't just the man who raised him. He was his advisor, his mentor, and the roadmap that guided him every step of the way. If football was the legacy passed down from his father, then Haaland's extraordinary physique came from somewhere else. His mother, Gry Marita Braut, was a Norwegian heptathlon champion during the 1990s. Heptathlon isn't a sport for ordinary athletes. It demands exceptional endurance, blistering speed, explosive power, and incredible athleticism across 7 different events. And perhaps it was from his mother that Haaland inherited the one thing that has amazed the football world ever since: a 1.95-meter frame combined with the speed and explosiveness of an elite track and field athlete. People still tell the story that when Erling was just 5 years old, he recorded a 1.63-meter standing long jump, a mark widely believed to have been a record for children his age. Whether the story is entirely accurate or not, it has become a symbol of something much bigger. Even as a little boy, Erling Haaland was never an ordinary child. The combination of his father's footballing background and his mother's elite athletic genetics created one of the most unique strikers in modern football history. A player built like a centre-back, but capable of moving and finishing like a world-class number 9. But here's something many people don't know. Unlike most young football prodigies whose lives revolved entirely around the game, Haaland had a very different passion: music. In 2016, at just 16 years old, while away on international duty with Norway's youth national team, he and 2 of his friends formed a rap group called Flow Kings. They even released a song titled Kygo Joe on YouTube. Perhaps, if life had taken a different path, the world might have known Erling Haaland as a rapper, instead of one of football's deadliest strikers. But that passion was only a brief detour, because Haaland soon realized that the place where he truly belonged wasn't inside a recording studio. It was on a football pitch. He joined the youth academy of Bryn FK, where the journey to becoming one of the most feared goal-scoring machines in world football officially began. Erling Haaland's football journey began in the small town of Bryn, Norway. At just 5 years old, he joined the youth academy of his local club, Bryn FK, where he spent almost his entire childhood growing up with a football at his feet. At first, Haaland wasn't developed as a centre-forward. His youth coach, Berntsen, initially experimented with him as a winger. But after only a handful of matches, it became obvious. Haaland was born to play through the middle, so he was moved into his natural position, the position that would one day make defenders all over the world fear him. By 2015, the name Haaland was beginning to spread throughout Norway's youth football scene. Playing for Bryn's reserve team, he scored an incredible 18 goals in just 14 matches, an astonishing goal-scoring record for a player who was still only a teenager. Those remarkable performances opened a door that very few young footballers ever get the chance to walk through. At just 15 years old, Haaland was promoted straight into Brian FTK's first team, a bold decision by the coaching staff. He went on to make 16 appearances in Norway's second division, although he failed to score in those 16 senior matches. Haaland was already attracting the attention of scouts thanks to his pace, physical presence, and a footballing intelligence far beyond his years. German club TSG Hoffenheim even invited him over for a trial, a clear sign that despite his young age, Haaland had already appeared on the radar of clubs from footballing nations far bigger than Norway. In 2017, Erling Haaland left Brian FK to join Molde FK. It was the first major step that brought the young Norwegian closer to elite football. And at Molde, Haaland met the man who would change his career, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. The Manchester United legend immediately recognized something special in his nearly 2-meter-tall protégé. But he also knew that raw power alone would never be enough to conquer European football. Under Solskjaer's guidance, Haaland wasn't just building strength. He was taught every small detail of the game, how to time his runs, how to read the play and arrive in the right place at exactly the right moment. And above all, how to dominate in the air, a weapon that would later become one of the defining trademarks of the Haaland phenomenon on football's biggest stages. His first season at Molde, however, was far from explosive. Haaland made 14 appearances but scored just 2 goals. For a youngster surrounded by so much hype, those numbers were modest, and to many, even a little disappointing. Everything changed in his second season. The lessons Solskjaer had taught him were finally beginning to pay off. Haaland exploded onto the scene, scoring 12 goals in all competitions and establishing himself as Molde's leading goalscorer. From a relatively unknown youngster, he became a constant nightmare for defenders across the Norwegian league. By the time his spell at Molde came to an end, Haaland had scored 20 goals in 50 appearances. Those numbers may not seem extraordinary compared to the records he would go on to break later in his career, but they were the foundation. Those 2 years were the most important stage in transforming a talented teenager into a battle-tested professional, and performances like those were never going to go unnoticed by Europe's biggest clubs. In January 2019, the Red Bull Football Group brought Haaland to RB Salzburg. The chapter in Norway had come to an end, and the journey across European football had officially begun. Leaving Norway, Haaland carried something that not every young footballer possesses: an overwhelming desire to prove every single one of his doubters wrong. But in Salzburg, he faced a challenge that even the most gifted talents couldn't escape. This was no longer the world of Norway's domestic league. This was the gateway to the UEFA Champions League, where Europe's true giants were watching. And within just a few months of pulling on the RB Salzburg shirt, Haaland did something that left the entire continent in disbelief. He reached a milestone that even many established superstars have still never achieved. So, what exactly happened? And why, just 6 months later, were Europe's biggest clubs, from England, Germany, and Spain, all lining up to fight for the signature of this 19-year-old phenomenon? The answer awaits in the next chapter. Don't miss it.